Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Monstrosities. I am your host, Matt. Now, typically, you know that we cover all things Godzilla and giant monsters right here on this channel, but we are also huge advocates of weird, cool, independent movies from the world over. And we're going to step into that world today by presenting you guys an interview with actor Sky Elobar. I first became aware of Mr. Elobar when he starred in this little movie called The Greasy Strangler. But he's also been in so many other works that are equally as cool. And we get to chat with him about his body of work in the following interview. And you might even just find out by the end of it what Mr. Elobar's favorite Godzilla movie is of all time. Let's find out. I think a lot of people, they know you from your work with Jim Hosking, who, has done Greasy Strangler and all this stuff. And you started working with him back in 2008, all the way back on Renegades. And since then, you guys have done a lot together. You've done shorts, you've done feature films, television.
Yeah.
Besides the consistent work, which is awesome, what is it that makes you want to work with Jim over and over and over again?
The way he tells the story and his dialogue and his whole concept. It's just so different and so refreshing. If you say, "Hey, Jim, let's go right," he'll take it left. It's just he doesn't go where the normal person would go. The normal director, he's off in the woods, and I really like that.
Does it ever get to a point where because you've portrayed a lot of characters for him, does it ever get to a point to where you just stop questioning it and you just kind of just go with the flow and just have complete trust in him?
No, I always question it. Like the hairdo in Beverly Luff.
Yeah,
he wanted to do a rat tail. He shaved my head and do a rat tail, and I said, "Dude, no, I'm not doing that." I mean, I just don't see this character as like this really, really super odd character. And he was glad he didn't do it, but they ended up curling my hair with a curling iron every day. And that wasn't great, but I think it works.
Beverly Love Linn is one of those movies I really wish got a lot more love from people. I think that, I don't know. It's really a wonderful film. Yeah, with it being on Netflix now, I really hope people start discovering it. This is just a really basic question, but how well does your own sense of humor match up against Jim's? The sense of humor, I guess, that he imbues in his flicks.
It's challenging because the dialogue that he writes is unusual and has its own rhythm. So you kind of got to get into the rhythm, get into the character, these odd characters. And it's not easy. It doesn't, I don't think it does line up. I have to work to get into it. But I've worked with him a lot. So I started working with him in, I guess, 2008, 2009. I did Renegades and I did Crabs and etc. And I did a lot of like commercial auditions for him. He was a commercial director before he got going with his first feature film. So I did a lot of that. So I got into his vibe. His vibe is very different. So, I kind of fell into it, and it's really been a great thing for me because Greasy has been a calling card for me. People know it and they think it's just brilliant, thank God. And did you see the James Franco interview?
No, I didn't.
He said a lot of great stuff about he loved the movie. And my friend of mine in New York works with him on The Deuce. He's what does he do? He's in the art department. He went up to James and says, "Hey, Sky says hi." And he's like, "Man, how's Sky? I love him, man. He's phenomenal." I'm like, wow. Wow. You couldn't ask for much more than that, man.
That I'm really glad that it's worked out that way. I know it sounds a little weird. I'm just I'm really happy that movies like that can exist, especially in a world where it's kind of like, you got Hollywood sequels and remakes left and right. It's really fun to be able to have something like this.
Absolutely.
And speaking of offbeat movies, kind of going sequentially here, before you did Greasy Strangler, you did a feature called Don Verdean, which was directed by Jared Hess of Napoleon Dynamite, starred Sam Rockwell and Jermaine Clement.
Yeah.
You played Dr. Stanley, who's the right-hand man of this Satanist turned evangelical Christian, played by Will Forte. And like, what I really liked about that was it almost felt like the prototype to what would come later with Emil Hirsch and Beverly Luff Linn. Like, you're this like hilarious henchman of an over-the-top cartoon villain, and you guys just play.
It's crazy, huh?
You guys just play off each other so well. But I was just wondering, like, what was your experience filming that?
That was a phenomenal experience. Jared's the greatest guy in the world, and he was nice enough to not call me in for an audition and say, "Hey, I want you to play this part." And I'm like, "Jared, when do you want me to audition?" He says, No, I don't want you to audition. I want you to play this part." And I'm like, "Holy crap." And I got the part, and like within a week or so, I was flying to Utah. And I came in, and you know what's funny, man? I get in there and I get through, the wardrobe and the hair and makeup and everything. And they bring me in. Jared brings me in. He brings me to Sam Rockwell and says, "Sam, this is Dr. Stanley." And Sam just looks at me, gets up real close and says, "Yeah, I like it, man." And then he introduced me to Will Forte. And honest to God, I didn't know who Will Forte was. I was like, "Wow, great, man." And we got to work, and I'm like, "So what are you doing? What have you done, man?" He's like, "Well, I was on SNL for like 10 years or whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, wow." I felt like a real dummy, man.
Did you catch one of his latest flicks called Extraordinary?
I haven't seen it, but it just seems like incredible.
Check it out, man. He just knocks it out of the park. It's
he's top notch, man. He is the funniest dude.
Yeah, and especially in Don Verdean, I felt like you guys were possibly the highlight of that movie for me.
Wow, man!
It was a lot of fun, and like I said, it kind of really reminded me of the stuff that happened in Luff Linn. So after Don Verdean, of course, that's when Greasy Strangler hits. You get a lead role. And dude, you gained 15 to 20 pounds for this. You filmed it like
more than that.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah, I was 210. I gained close to 30 to 40 pounds.
Man. Well, geez. Okay, so you gained 30 pounds for this.
At least, maybe more, because I was pushing 250.
And on top of that, you film a good chunk of this either in your underwear or you're in the greasy suit. Like, nobody can say that you did not throw your all into this. And I was curious if you would consider that role like one of your most challenging roles, if not your most challenging role.
Oh, absolutely. That was the most challenging role. I mean, I worked every day for a month on that, and I was, put into a lot of different emotional grinders in that movie to, work through it. There were a lot of scenes, man, that I had to work through, big movie for me, and I had a lot of fun.
One of the things that me and my friends really enjoy about Jim's work especially is the fact that you always get these familiar faces that pop up in front of the camera, behind the camera. It's cool to hear stories like I think you said this on one of the podcasts I listened to. You introduced him to your friend Gil Jex, who wound up playing Big Paul at the car wash owner, and then he goes on, to be in Beverly Luff Linn and Tropical Cocktails, and I was curious, what are these sets like when you're working with friends and people you're already familiar with?
I think it's more fun. I don't think it's easier at all. I think you still have to do the work, and but it's a lot more fun to have your friends and people around that you could hang out with off camera and just bullshit around with.
Totally, absolutely.
And go out for a drink, and it's like It's like a family, a close-knit family.
It really comes across that way too. I mean, again, like you see all these familiar faces pop up, and you get the sensation that you guys are having fun. It doesn't necessarily look like work. Obviously, on something like Greasy Strangler, like, you know, it's going to be challenging on days, but it always looks like you guys are having fun.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun on that movie, man. I had a lot of fun on Don Verdean.
That one also looked like it was a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, man. Working with Will Forte.
I was super happy to see it was available on Netflix, and everybody should check out that flick.
Is it still on Netflix?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Hope you don't mind, but I actually kind of wanted to ask you about Mel Kohl, who was a friend of yours, and he played the hot dog vendor in the movie. He unfortunately passed away before the movie came out.
No. He passed away right after the movie came out.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, it was November, like 16th or something. I don't know. We were on a set somewhere, and I got a call from his manager, who I knew from another age. I've known them for a while, and she called me and said, "Hey, are you sitting down?" And I said, "Oh no, what happened?" And she said, "Mel died." And I was like, I was just stunned. I'm still stunned. I still miss Mel so much, man. And I'm working on a movie now that we're going to shoot in Germany where he'd be perfect for this role. Perfect. And I've been saying, man, fuck, Mel. Why did you have to die? Why, man?
He's fucking awesome in Greasy Strangler. I was actually just wondering, if you don't mind, if it gets too personal, we can skip this question, but if you could just like share a few words about what kind of guy he was. Because like I said, he has a really memorable role in Greasy Strangler. And
you know where I met Mel? I met him on a Jared Hess commercial for Microsoft. He came in on like, it was a 2 or 3 or 4 day shoot. And he came in on like the third day in this greaser type outfit, like from the 50s, like black leather jacket with his hair back like Fonzie or like Elvis. and I'm like, he came up to me and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And we hit it off right away and talked and stayed in touch. And I helped him get with his agent, the agent that he had. And his footage wasn't used in the commercial because they cut it out. It was an internet spot that they just decided not to use a lot of the stuff that we shot. We shot so much stuff. Anyway, Mel was the best, man. He lived over in Burbank, and, you know, we helped each other out. I call him up and say, "Hey, Mel, I got this big role I'm reading for. Can you want to meet? Can you help me?" He's like, "Sure. Let's meet down at Denny's on Alameda." So we'd meet at Denny's in the booth, and we just work on it for a couple hours, man, and eat lunch. Oh man. And his past with touring as a stand-up comedian was just so fascinating. He opened for Jackie Mason.
Did he really?
All over the world for years and years. And then he had a falling out with Jackie Mason. I guess probably political. I would imagine it's political stuff, but he never really talked about it. And I'd go out to, we brought groups of people out to see him do stand up at the Laugh Factory and different places. And Mel was just one of a kind, man. One of a kind. Close friend of mine.
It's really cool, man. I'm glad that you're able to have a friendship like that. Like, not to sound weird, but he sounds like he was a really cool cat.
Yeah, Mel was the best, man. I really miss Mel.
We kind of already touched on this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. But how has the Greasy Strangler changed your life?
Well, it's gotten me a lot more work and a lot more, interest from directors, producers. I did a lot of work in 2018 from the Greasy Strangler. I got auditions and book stuff because people saw the Greasy Strangler and they called me in. You know, it's funny. They called in a bunch of people from the Greasy Strangler. Yeah, I'd see Sam there, the tourist.
Yeah.
I'd see, the cast of characters, because Jim really picks them, man. He knows.
Oh, he totally does. I mean, Sam is freaking hysterical. Like, there's a couple of stuff that he's done for Jim, some of the short films.
Yeah.
The Max Villivank one.
Oh, my God.
I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but it's really fun.
Yeah. Sam lives at a Buddhist temple.
Does he really?
Yeah. He's a very cool dude. He lives up in Sunland or Silmar up north in a Buddhist temple. He's lived there the whole time he's been here. He's from Sri Lanka.
That's crazy.
Jim came to me and said, I'm still looking for people to cast the Greasy Strangler. Michael and I were in rehearsals together. We were rehearsing together at some studio down in Hollywood. And Jim's like, I need a hot dog vendor, and I need a car wash guy, and I need this. And I like, dude, let me call Mel. Let me call Gil. And he's like, really? I said, I'll send you their picture. Send him the picture. He said, bring them down. They came down. They booked the thing, which is beautiful.
When Jim did his next feature, it was An Evening with Beverly, Luff, Linn, which I think was 2018. And you play Carl. You're one of Shane Danger's henchmen.
Yeah.
And it's really different, I think, from the Greasy Strangler, like both subject-wise and tonally, but it's still very much in like the Jim Hosking style.
Absolutely.
What was your experience like filming that, and how different was it for you from the Greasy Strangler?
Well, I played a supporting role in that, so I wasn't worked to death. I stayed in the hotel in Eureka, California for 3.5 weeks, and I probably worked, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12 days out of the 3 weeks, half. I had a lot of days off. I got to see a lot of stuff around Eureka. I had a blast in Eureka. Just the redwoods, the redwood forest, walking around, looking at the old Victorian houses, hanging out with Gil, hanging out with Carl, hanging out with Sam. And we had a blast, man. We had a blast, and it was fun. It wasn't real challenging.
Now, this next one, this is a completely nerdy question, okay? And you can just be like, dude, I have no idea. But I'm going to ask it anyways because I don't know if it's actually been asked. But in Beverly, Luff, Linn, there's like some really fun Greasy Strangler callbacks. You have the Paprika Ridge chips and that branding like there throughout. You had just mentioned Carl, and that, of course, is Carl Solomon, who was Danny the Crooner in Greasy. And then DJ Vasquez or something in Beverly, Luff, Linn. But DJ,
I can't remember the full character name, but he was a DJ. He was great.
Yeah, and just like in Greasy, like his wanted posters everywhere. Can we infer that Greasy Strangler and Beverly, Luff, Linn take place in the same universe, kind of like a Hosking verse, if you will?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. The person, he used the same art department and wardrobe person that he used for the Greasy Strangler. So they were looking for locations, and they were originally going to shoot this in Rochester, but decided, let's go to California. Let's find a town in California that you would not say, oh, that's California. It doesn't look like, looks like somewhere like, where is this? You'd say, people are freaked that they find out that Greasy was shot in Los Angeles, because it doesn't look like Los Angeles at all. It's Jim's approach to get a universe that looks, like you don't know where you are. It could be this time frame. It could be the 80s. It could be the 70s. It could be the 90s. It could be, you're in a separate universe, in an alternate universe somewhere else, and you don't know where you are. Jim very good at that, man. That's the left turn I was talking about. If you say, hey, let's shoot it here, no, no, no.
So you've played a lot of wild Jim Hosking characters, just to name a few. The King of the Pimps, Big Brayden, Carl, Crab Hands, Little Lord Piss the Pot.
The Drifter.
The Drifter, that's right, from Crabs. Is there one performance that stands out as your personal favorite for whatever reason?
I mean, I have to say the Greasy Strangler, because I really had a lot of work in there, and it was a challenging role, and it really pushed me to the limit. So I did my best work in Greasy Strangler. I mean, not that the other work wasn't good, and it just King of the Pimps was fun, but it was a 1-day shoot. Under the Silver Lake was a 1-day shoot. I auditioned for the role of the artist or the musician in Under the Silver Lake, the old guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I auditioned for that. Now that I was hoping I'd get that, but I didn't. They said I looked too young for the role, and they wanted somebody that they could really make look like 100 years old.
My next question was actually about Under the Silver Lake, which stars Andrew Garfield. It was directed by David Robert Mitchell, the guy who did It Follows. It's really a crazy movie. I really enjoyed it. It's totally offbeat, very similar to the stuff that we've talked about before that you've done. What was your experience like filming that?
It was a lot of fun being the bookstore clerk and doing the one little scene with Andrew Garfield. I had a lot of fun getting into the role and, just giving him the info and saying, I don't need your $5. I get a lot of people saying, hey man, I saw you in Under the Silver, like, great. And what's funny is there were 2 other characters that had lines in the bookstore that day, and they got cut because they wanted to focus on this Garfield scene with me. They got cut, which I felt bad about, but
it happens.
It happens.
It's a really good movie. It's another one that's also available on Amazon Prime that a lot of people should go check out.
I think so. I think it's one of those movies that's going to catch on down the road when people like wake up a little bit.
I've read and I've seen, heard you talk about things, how you like more offbeat kinds of things, but do you kind of see these movies as that kind of investment, kind of like, oh dude, this is a future cult classic, like later down the line, I think this thing's going to blow up. Like that, does that ever enter your mind, or does it just kind of like...
Maybe after, when I did Greasy Strangler, I never thought this thing would blow up. I just thought, this is a lead role. This is a challenging role. This is a very odd movie, and it's going to be just great to have this like on my reel, this kind of stuff. And then afterwards, I think, holy shit, when we went to Sundance, I didn't even know it would get in Sundance. And then Jim's like, we're in Sundance, man. I'm like, are you kidding me? And all the screens were sold out, and people were talking about the Greasy Strangler, and it was crazy. And I thought, holy shit, this could be something that like could blow up like Rocky Horror Picture Film. But I didn't think that when I read the script. And,
what is your approach to people who look at these movies and just don't get it? They just write it off. Oh, it's just, there was no effort put into it, which is,
Well, I'll respond. I've responded on Twitter to some guy who was like, this Beverly Loughlin is vapid, malarkey, like whatever he said, I forget, it's like rubbish. And I'm like, dude, no, those things that it's not, acquired taste. Yes. Maybe you need to just give it a chance and open up your mind a little bit. That's what I say if people come up with like nasty stuff to just say. I don't know why the guy's saying nasty stuff like that, but I like to combat it a little bit,
It's one of the real beauty that I really enjoy from Jim's work and the work that you guys do. Everything is deliberate. Everything is planned. It's not, things aren't funny because it's like a crappily made movie. It's not funny because it's like, oh, hey, look, the camera work is awful.
Yeah.
The cinematography is good. The acting is purposely directed this way, and it's purposely presented in this fashion.
And Jim is a great editor too.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, in the editing bay, I mean, he puts this stuff all together to give it the right movement,
And dude, these days, I'm sorry, I'm kind of like going off onto a tangent. Style is very much lacking, I think, in a lot of directors, and Jim has it in spades.
Oh yeah, he'll be glad to hear that on this interview, man, when I send it to him.
Last year, you got to star in a horror film called Candy Corn. You played Gus, and he's just this really skeezy bad guy.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I don't, at least the movies that I've seen you in, it's not very typical of the roles you've portrayed, but you pulled it off really well.
Did I?
I felt like you were having fun playing a bad guy. And that's what I wanted to ask you, if playing a villain, like if you had fun with it, was that any different than how you'd approach something else?
I had fun playing that role, and I had fun in the kill scene where the monster killed me, and I had a lot of fun. If we would have had a bigger budget, I would have even been in more of the movie. I think they cut a couple days from me because of budget, and but Josh Hasty is a very, very talented dude, super talented.
You just mentioned that you get killed in it. Without spoiling much, let's just say that there's a lot of blood. And there was an interview that you did where you had mentioned that on one of the days of filming that scene, you literally had to like lay there in that stuff for like hours on end, and it was excruciating.
Yeah, that sucked. It was cold. It's Ohio, dude.
The experience sounded kind of similar to what you had to go through on Greasy Strangler with the suit.
Yeah.
And I was wondering that, like, as an actor, how do you enjoy working with special effects? Like, do you enjoy the challenge, or is it just a gigantic pain in the ass?
I enjoy it, and it is a gigantic pain in the ass. It's a love-hate thing. Right. No other way to put it, man. It's challenging. It's thrilling, man, to do stuff that, you haven't done before.
Remind me, I feel like that you said this a couple of times in, like I said, previous stuff, but was running around in the greasy suit in the woods and in like what's at the end of the Greasy Strangler, wasn't that some of like the most fun you had on set? That
was a lot of fun. It was the daytime, so it was a lot of fun. I didn't feel so cold when we were at the theater, and I ran down the street into the theater in the greasy suit. It was like 30 degrees outside.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
and they put the suit on you, and then they put this methocellulose over you. It's like slathered on you, and then they put this icy stuff that shines like grease, but it's cold. And I worked on that thing for, oh God, 8 to 10 hours, man, in that suit. And the sucky thing about it was you'd sit in front of a heater to stay warm, right? But the heater would dry up the icy stuff, so they have to apply it again.
That sounds like a nightmare. I mean, it looks really good. Like it looks really good, but that sounds, again, excruciating.
Yeah, well, that wasn't fun. Yeah, but nothing ever is fun when you're doing something that's challenging and is going to pay off later.
That is true.
I mean,
that is true. Nothing worth having is easy to get or easy to achieve.
Yeah, right. That wasn't fun, running in the greasy suit, freezing cold for 10 hours. No, that wasn't fun. But I knew I had to do it.
You were a musician, and you were in a band in the late 90s, early 2000s called Seventh House.
Yeah.
And you kind of mentioned it earlier with, you had mentioned that there's a movie in Germany that you're going to go shoot. But that I think that movie is a film based on your experiences with Seventh House and the Pittsburgh music scene.
It started out being based on the band that I started in Pittsburgh and got a record deal with through Atlantic Records, and had, some small success. We almost had a hit. It almost blew up, and then it, like, boom, the towers came down. But we changed it. Our first draft was the band, and then my friend in Rochester, who I did Pet Monkey with, that little short thing.
Yeah.
He and I just went back and forth, said, what if we do this? What if we do that? What if we do this? And it's no longer the band. But the intention, the original intention is still there. What we wanted to communicate, the idea that we had, the whole umbrella concept is still there, but we just took the band stuff out. So I got kind of bored with the band stuff.
I mean, obviously, you probably would like to act in it. Are you taking on any other additional role besides that behind the camera?
Just acting, and we wrote the script.
Gotcha.
Eric and I wrote the script. It's finished, and we're talking about when we're going to do it in Germany. They've just opened up the filming over there, so that was a good sign. And we're going to start talking about, like, next year when we start this thing. So I'm very psyched. And there's a role in this movie that we wrote that Mel is absolutely perfect for. So, I'm going to dedicate the movie to Mel.
That's awesome. Without spoiling too much, can we look forward to any potential recurring actors from the Hosking films popping up in this potentially?
I'm going to try to get Carl Solomon, DJ Gills, is that it? DJ Gills? DJ Thrills or something like that.
Yeah, you're right.
Something like that. But I'm going to try to get him into the role for Mel, the Mel role that I have as the stand-up comedian in the club.
Carl, he seems pretty hilarious.
He's very hilarious. He's very natural. Carl's one of a kind.
I mean, obviously you got this upcoming project in Germany, but what projects do you have coming up that you can tell us about?
The big one is called the Ben Evans film. It's a book that Josh Mallerman, who wrote Bird Box, wrote, and I shot this in Detroit last November, and we did an Indiegogo and got like 10 or 15 grand, and we shot a short in Detroit and got the shorts edited, the music's done, the whole thing's done. It's now Josh has taken it to his manager, who got him the Bird Box deal with Netflix, and they're out pitching it. And we have a company that we just did a Zoom meeting with that's interested in jumping on board and producing it. It's called the Ben Evans film, and I'm the lead in it, and it's a challenging movie. It's going to be like the next step. There'll be the Greasy Strangler, then there'll be, a Ben Evans film, and then my thing in Germany, lead roles that I'm really showing, my ability.
And you get to expand as an actor, right? Like you don't have to be kind of these weird characters. You can actually kind of be.
Well, a Ben Evans film is a weird film, dude.
Yeah, sorry, that was the wrong choice of words.
Yeah, but the one we're doing in Germany isn't weird. It's more of it's something that's socially, desirable. We've got a social message, and it's a really good. It's a warm movie that's got some hilarious moments in it, but also I guess it's a dramedy, but I hate to use that word. I hate dramedy, but it's heavy drama, but with some comedy, some dark comedy in it.
How can people find you on social media?
Twitter, Sky Elobar. Facebook, Sky Elobar. Instagram, Sky Elobar. There's only one. Like the Highlander said, there can only be one.
Only one. I love that
There
reference.
can be only one, exactly.
I just showed my buddy, just for shits and giggles, the other day, Highlander 2.
Oh, dude,
Right?
dude, my old agent called me one day about, God, it's been, man, it's got to be 9 or 10 years ago. And he said, Sky, do you want to come out to lunch with me? And I'm like, yeah, I'll come to lunch with anyone. And he's like, I'm going to have lunch with Adrian Paul.
Oh, snap.
He's interviewing me to do he's looking for an agent. So I said, oh my God. So I went down to Sherman Oaks to this Italian place and sat literally beside Adrian Paul, and my agent was on the other end of the table. And I couldn't help it. I started quoting the Highlander, and he turned to me and he's like, stop that. But really nice guy, man, very serious, really nice guy. And it was great meeting him. And I freaking love the Highlander. I love it.
It's a really cool franchise. The rumor running around the internet now is that they're still prepping for a remake.
I hope so, and I hope it's him. I hope it's not some young stud, dude. I hope it's, you know what they're going to do. They're going to change the Highlander and then bring him in as an immortal, like a seer or something.
Oh, right. Yeah, kind of a Luke Skywalker passing on the lightsaber kind of deal.
Yeah. like Lambert coming in. Man, I'm just like, I'm one of the biggest fans, dude. I love Highlander. Oh, God.
I'm glad we kind of like started talking about nerdy things, because I'm going to ask you the question I warned you about in the beginning of the interview. Since we're known as kind of more of a Godzilla / giant monster channel, I got to tie it in there somehow, some way. So I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite Godzilla movie?
My favorite monster movie, like Godzilla, is not Godzilla. I'm not a fan of Godzilla. I love Gorgo.
Oh, nice.
Gorgo, dude.
That's a freaking classic.
And it's not as mainstream as Godzilla, right?
Totally.
Gorgo. Oh,
I got it sit on Blu-ray, just sitting over there on my shelf right now. I'm gonna have to watch it now. Yeah, totally.
Well, you are a nerd.
Yeah. I could have told you that.
Yeah, man. I think I said to Josh Mallerman, who's a super nerd, right? He's like, what monster movies you like? I said, Gorgo. He's like, I don't think I've seen that. I'm like, what?
I feel like people can kind of learn a lot about a person by asking this question. What are some films and music that you just really love?
I like everything from classical music all the way up through jazz, through certain genres of rock, not all rock. I like some metal. I like some punk, not all of it. I like some disco music, not all of it. I like the real good disco, like the Tramps and the bands that actually played the stuff and didn't program it.
Totally.
And I'm a big fan of, I'm really big fan of funk music, Parliament, Funkadelic, and blues and country. I was just listening in a long, long time ago when I was in college, a friend of mine who later got the gig with David Bowie.
Oh, wow.
He was a friend of mine. He still is. He lives here in California. Eric Skermerhorn. We were hanging out in a club in Cambridge, Massachusetts called Nightlife, I think it was called. And there was this guitar player, this country, jazz, bluegrass, blues, everything guitar player coming. And everybody the buzz was just insane. And so Eric and I went and we got to the show. It was Danny Gatton. I don't know if you've ever heard of Danny Gatton. He later killed himself, 5 years or 6 years later, killed himself in his garage. But I was just on YouTube the other day. Every now and then I go out there just to look into some Danny Gatton stuff. Oh my God, man. what a freak of nature.
Really?
Just, not that I put too much credence in it, but Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, and Jeff Beck all said in Guitar Player in an interview, Danny Gatton's the greatest guitar player that ever lived. And I do not disagree with that. So I'm into all kinds of music, man. And I love films that have great music, like Gladiator.
Gladiator does have a great soundtrack.
Hans Zimmer did the soundtrack to that, and it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And Death Wish, the first Death Wish, Herbie Hancock. The second Death Wish, Jimmy Page.
I was watching the Australian double disc special edition of Greasy Strangler, and during the Q&A, you had actually mentioned that you had discussed with Jim Hosking, the director of the movie, about the possibility of doing music for the movie, because you are yourself a musician. He wound up going with, of course, with Andrew Hung of the Fuck Buttons, but is composing a soundtrack for a film something that would entice you or interest you?
Depends on what the film is. The Greasy Strangler, I really, really, really wanted to take a crack at it as my first film.
Totally.
And, I may have been, after I hear Andrew's work, I was way, beyond my depth. I was, and I was bugging Jim after we shot the movie. I was like, let me come over. Let me work on the music with you. He's like, okay, Sky, I've got to edit this thing first. Let me edit it first. Cut it. So then I kept bugging him and saying, let's do the soundtrack. He says, I think I'm going to go with Miles Davis music. And I'm like, dude, you'll never get Miles Davis music in this movie. It'll never happen. They'll never license it to you. Anyone. Miles is like the Holy Grail.
Totally.
And that was the last I heard. And then Andrew came up, and I wasn't like, pissed off or anything. I just said, oh, wow. Okay. So when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. But I really wanted to take a crack at it. That's it.
I would have to agree. The music in that and the other works that he's done have been. I love it so much. It's some really crazy sound. What kind of movies are more your jam? Like just from a strictly personal, like movies that you enjoy watching.
Anything vampire. Anything. What were we talking about before? The Silver Lake. The really weird movies. I like heartfelt movies that want to make you cry. That movie, that low budget Australian movie, No Rabbit Fence, was it?
Rabbit Proof Fence?
Oh yeah, I just cried through that movie. I love that movie, and I love Max von Sydow.
Yes,
I love like. The Exorcist scared the shit out of me. And did you see the movie where he played Jesus, the famous movie? Max is just phenomenal.
I don't think I saw that one. Do you remember?
Did you see Intacto?
No, I think that's on the list actually.
Dude, that movie is just blew my mind. It's a nobody's ever seen it really. And instead of like, what am I trying to say? Other than like Tim League, massive movie buffs who see everything. These guys,
yeah,
like Tim League, Ant Timpson, saw all of them. Everything I could mention, he's seen everything.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's all they do is watch movies all day and all night, man, in their free time.
I would like to thank Mr. Elobar very much for letting us conduct this interview, and I would also like to thank all of you for watching this video. I provided links in the description down below where you can go find his works, follow him on social media, and also give Monstrosities a follow as well. We're on Twitter at Tokusatsu Vlog, and you can even find us on Discord. And until then, catch you in the next video, or see you in the next live stream.